Welcome back. Problem 172 states that if x minus 1 squared equals 400, which of the following could be x minus 5? Well, x minus 1 squared equals 400. We take the square root of both sides of this equation, and we get x minus 1 equals plus or minus 20. Remember that when you take a square root of a positive number, it could be a positive or a negative. Anyway, we can turn this into two different equations. X minus 1 equals 20, and x minus 1 equals negative 20. Solve for x, and we get x equals 19 on the left. We get x equals, actually, you know what? On this side, it's going to actually become 21. X equals 21 because we add 1 to both sides. These are your two x's. Now what we do is we plug them into this equation, and we get 21 minus 5. It's going to be 16. Or we get negative 19 minus 5 is going to be negative 24. So the answer is going to be either 16 or negative 24. When you look in the answer choices, negative 24 is going to be C. Number 173 says, which of the following describes all values for x for which 1 minus x squared is greater than or equal to 0? Well, remember that a squared minus b squared equals a plus b times a minus b, right? 1 minus x squared is the same as saying 1 squared minus x squared. So what we can do is use this formula to derive 1 plus x, 1 minus x is greater than or equal to 0. Then we just create two different equations and solve for x individually. So x is going to be greater than or equal to negative 1 on the left, and on the right we're going to get negative x is greater than or equal to negative 1, but then that's going to be x is less than or equal to 1 because we divide both sides by negative 1 and we flip the sign. So that's going to be your answer. That is answer choice E. Although in the actual official guide, the way that they write E is negative 1 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 1. But it's the same thing. 174 is a fun probability problem. It says a probability is a half that a certain coin will turn up heads on any given toss. If that coin is to be tossed 3 times, so we're going to toss a coin 3 times. So we're going to toss the coin 3 times. What is the probability that on at least one of the tosses the coin will turn up heads? So at least one, no, that it will turn up tails. So at least one tails. And there's a half a chance that we'll get a heads or a tails. So there's two different ways you can solve this. We're only flipping this coin 3 times, so it's a pretty small number of possibilities. So remember that possibilities, the way that you calculate the probability of something happening is the number of possible, or the number of desired outcomes over the number of possible outcomes, right? So what are the possible outcomes when you flip this 3 times? Well, you're going to get either heads or tails, right? So you're going to get either all heads or all tails. You might get heads, tails, tails. You may get heads, heads, tails. Or you could get heads, tails, heads, or tails, heads, tails. You could also get tails, heads, heads, or tails, tails, heads. So there are 8 different possibilities. And what are all the desired outcomes? We are looking for at least 1 tails, right? So all of these have at least 1 tails except for this. So there are 7 different possible outcomes that we are looking for. So the answer is going to be 7 over 8. And that is going to be answer D. Now before I move on, I want to explain something. A lot of times you'll get questions like this on the test, but it won't just be 3 flips. They might ask you to calculate 64 probabilities, in which case it wouldn't make sense to draw all the different probabilities because it would take 5 minutes to do that. What you would want to do then is a trick, which is the 1 minus x trick. 1 is always going to be the possibility of something happening. So whenever you take 1 minus a probability of something happening, you're looking for the probability of that not happening. So when the question is asking you to figure out the probability that there will be at least one tails, it's basically saying what is the probability that we won't have all heads. So using this trick, what we can do is figure out the probability of getting 3 heads in a row, and then subtract that from 1 to get our answer. So the chance of us getting an H, in the first flip is going to be a half. Same on the second flip, and same on the third flip. So the chances of us getting 3 H's in a row is going to be 1 over 8. 1 is the same as 8 over 8, so we subtract by 1 over 8, and we end up with 7 eighths, which is the exact same answer that we got by listing out all the different combinations. This can be a little tricky. We don't have a lot of problems on the GMAT like this. I don't see it a lot, so the chances of you getting something like this is a little bit slimmer. So if it's a small number, you can always write out all the different possibilities, but I like using this just because you never know what you're going to get, and this will work for you every time. Number 175 says, of the grades received by students in a certain math course, we have A's, we have B's, we have C's, and D's, and they said that a fifth of the class got A's, a fourth got B's, half of them got C's, and the remaining grades were 10. 10 grades were D's. This is the only solid number they give us. The rest of these are ratios. So we need to figure out these 10 grades, what is the relationship to these other numbers here? What is the percentage of people in the class who got these 10 grades? Because the question is asking, what is the number of students in the course? So number of students. That's what we're looking for. The way we can solve this is actually by adding these up. So we're going to convert them into base 20, and that's going to be 4 over 20 plus 5 over 20 plus 10 over 20. You add these together and you get 19 over 20. So that means D must be 1 over 20, right? Because the total number of people in the class will be 20 over 20, which is one class. So if D is 1 over 20, then what's 20 over 20? So 10 grades is 1 over 20. Then 20 over 20 must be 20 times that. So it's going to be 20 times 10, which is going to be 200. And 200 is answer D. Our next question is, as x increases, so 176 says, as x increases from 165 to 166, which of the following must increase? You give us 1 is 2x minus 5, 2 is 1 minus 1 over x, and 3 is 1 over x squared minus x. So let's figure out which one of these will be true. So we're looking for must increase. Not that it will sometimes increase, but that it will always increase. So 165 goes to 166, and that we're x. Then this number will get bigger, and we're subtracting by a constant, which is 5. So this is always going to be true. 2 times 166 is always going to be bigger than 2 times 165, and you subtract by the same number. Number 2, 1 minus 1 over x. Well, 1 over x is going to get smaller and smaller because the denominator is going to get bigger and bigger. But since we're subtracting it from 1, that means we're taking away less and less and less from 1, so this is going to actually increase. Now for the third one, it says 1 over x squared minus x. Well, x squared is going to increase, definitely, and x is going to increase. But x squared is going to increase at a faster, or it's going to increase to a higher number faster, because it's increasing exponentially. What that means is that this denominator is going to go way up. So it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But since it's a denominator, that means this entire number is actually getting smaller. So this is not going to work. So 1 and 2 are going to be your answers. And it looks like C is 1 and 2. Number 177 gives us a rectangular box. I will draw it right now. here's your rectangular box. And they say that this box is 10 inches wide, 10 inches long, and 5 inches high. What is the greatest possible straight line distance in inches between any 2 points on the box? So they are asking us for the distance from this corner to this corner, like so. And we need to calculate what the distance of this line is. So this is going to be a side view, and this is going to be a top view. From the top view, we're looking at corners like this, and it's going to look like a diagonal line. From the side view, it's going to look like this. So you could figure this out by, like plugging in numbers and using the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what this is, and then use that as the base of a side to figure out this. It's a very time-consuming process, but I think a faster way to solve this problem, or at least a smarter way to solve the problem, is to actually memorize a formula, or memorize a theorem, which is, if we pretended that this line is x, then x squared is going to equal length squared plus height squared plus width squared. So plug in the numbers, and we get 5 squared is 25 plus 10 squared is 100 plus 100. That means x squared is 225, and therefore x equals 15. And 15 is going to be answer A. 178 has a table that I'll draw really quickly. It says clubs and number of students. And they tell us that there's a chess club, drama, and math. And that there are 40, 30, and 25 students. And it says, at this school, no student is in all 3 clubs. 10 students are in both chess and drama, 5 in both chess and math, and 6 in drama and math. How many different students are in all 3 clubs? So what are the total students? We see a problem like this. What we are going to do is not a double set matrix, but actually a Venn diagram. So it will look like 3 circles, like this. And that is a really poorly drawn circle. Excuse me. Let me change it a little bit. Alright, let me just redraw this very quickly, and I will explain what we are doing. So, you know what? I'm just going to redraw this entire thing. Oops. Yes, circles are the bane of my existence. Okay, will it look better this time? Let's hope so. So here's circle 1, and circle 2 I'll draw like this, and circle 3, I guess. Well, it's not perfect. Okay, it'll have to do. Anyway, they said that there are no students in all 3 courses, so I'm going to black this part out. And then they tell us that 10 are in, so let's make this chess, drama, and math. And they tell us that there are 10 in both chess and drama, 5 in chess and math, and 6 in drama and math. So if they tell us that there are 40, 30, and 25, we just plug these in and subtract by these numbers. And what we end up having is 40 minus 10 minus 5 is going to be 25. And we have 14 here and 14. And then we add all these numbers up together, and we get 74. And that's going to be answer C.